Are you looking for hot takes and guests yelling over top of each other? Well, you came to the wrong place. This is the final word where we talks about sports like they used to. All opinions are welcome, but that doesn't mean you are right. Hosted by Greg Rector. Welcome in.
Good evening, everybody. This is the final word, and this is my debut episode. And my first guest is Keith Richards, our Colorado Rapids writer and Denver Nuggets aficionado. We are going to talk about the NBA, but we're also going to talk about something else here. It's called football, not soccer. Okay. Now, in America, it's known as soccer. And where this word soccer came from, do you know where the word soccer actually came from, Keith?
I actually don't know.
It was a shortened version of association football. So they first called it SOC, and then they added the CER afterwards. But guess who did that? It was the British who did this. You people in the United States don't like anything that comes out of England. You fought against them. So stop using the wrong terminology for this great sport. It's actually called football. All right. Now that's the bottom line of that. Keith, I know you're a Manchester City fan. I know you like that Man City group. Are the days of Manchester running the Premier League over?
It depends on who stays and who goes. Now I wrote my article, I think it was about a week ago.
Yeah.
Their two biggest issues right now are number one is injury, number two was age. They're really young at the forward and attacking midfield positions. With the exception of Gundogan, who really isn't that big of a thing, and but the biggest one, Kevin De Bruyne, who's pushing 34, I think it was 35.
35. He'll be 35 soon, won't he?
They're all pretty young. They have pretty much everyone under 25. Erling Haaland, if he stays, we'll see if Barcelona is able to pull him away. Phil Foden is pretty young. Jack Grealish is decently young. Savinho, Jeremy Doku, they're really young and that part of the field.
Yeah.
What they're not is in the back. Kyle Walker's in his 30s. Almost every significant player, including Rodri, is 28 or older. If you're an MLS fan, that doesn't sound that old. That sounds like, they got good 5-6 years left. In English Premier League football, that's old. You don't want your back line to be all pushing their 30s, as you can see by the immense amount of injuries they've had in their defensive mid and back line of the season. So the transfer window is just about to open, if it hasn't opened already. They got that Saudi money in deep pockets. They're going to have to spend to get the team younger and to keep some players as well. If they can keep their attacking mid and forwards the way it is now, bring in some younger, fresher, better talent in the back, I think they'll bounce back right next season. But it's a big if because the Saudi leagues have deep pockets. There's some MLS teams that are willing to spend a lot of money to get players from Europe over, as we saw with the influx of players coming after Messi. So it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Have you seen that the OC Irvine team in the lower league there?
No.
I'm telling you that whole group really has it right. They fought against the LA Galaxy to keep their stadium. And they managed to do that. The LA Galaxy wanted to just take it over and with eminent domain, I guess, but they lost. But this OC Irvine group, they really play the English style, and their fans are treated the same way that the fans are over in England. Now that's a beautiful.
There's a lot of good USL teams. Maybe
Yeah.
not a whole lot, but there's some decent ones. Ones here in Colorado with the Switchbacks down in Colorado Springs. Miami FC, New Mexico United, Phoenix Rising, Pittsburgh Riverhounds is another good one. Sacramento Republic. There's some good teams that produce a lot of good talent that really aren't. I mean, there's definitely the dregs of the USL, especially
Yeah.
even in the USL championships. There's teams that really aren't that great. There's
No.
teams that produce a lot of good players that if they get one or two good signings, if there was a relegation in MLS, which I think there should be, it would be a lot more competitive because there are some USL championship teams that really put a lot of these MLS teams to their paces.
Well, exactly, right. And I just saw a bit on them on YouTube earlier today, though. That's why I mentioned them. What a beautiful organization that they've actually run, and you can actually purchase a part of that team to keep them alive as well, folks. So if you're interested in spending some money, like Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady recently did with the Buffalo Bills, if you've got the extra capital, put it into this USL team. Why not?
Hey, if you want better football, you gotta be able to spend for it. And if you're not willing to spend for it, you're not gonna get better football.
Exactly. Now, see, this is why I brought Keith on here, because he understands it is football. It is not soccer, folks. It's not soccer. Get rid of that noise. So tonight, of course, I really want everybody to focus in with Keith here on the National Basketball Association. I'm old, as you well know, and I remember watching NBA games late at night because they were not on TV. So that's because they were already recorded and they played them on tape delay. So I'm an old school hat. Let's put it that way. Now, we've got this new modern thing that happens here called load management. And Joel Embiid is now the king of it, as far as I'm concerned. Kawhi Leonard, no. Joel Embiid is now number one on my list of guys who load manage themselves for no reason. What do you have when it comes to this load management situation, Keith?
Well, the technical name is player participation policy.
Yeah.
They decided to start calling it. I think it was back in 2023 when they started it. And I think it was back in January of last year. They did an extensive 10-year study of what load management does, and it does nothing.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
They legitimately found that through 10 years of the study that they found, load management does not decrease the risk of injury compared to what they're traditionally doing. And really, to me, what it boils down to is, I mean, it's money. The more players play, the more they're eligible for first team, second team, third team, all of that stuff, all-star.
Yep.
The more they're eligible, the more they can play, the more money they can make. So they try to do scheduled losses is what load management boils down to. Like, teams are willing to accept that they're going to lose a certain amount of games, which they're fine with as long as their teams are winning when it matters towards the end of the season playoffs.
Right.
Which leads directly to the second point is teams care more about winning in the playoffs, which makes sense, than they do the regular season. And that, again, is based on money because there's roster bonuses tied along that with players. But fans also have to accept some responsibility for that as well. When you're constantly, let's take the biggest comparison there is in the NBA, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. When you're constantly comparing Michael Jordan's finals record and how many championships he's won to no matter what LeBron James does, he's always putting up against a ridiculous mark. Other players see that as like, well, I had to be healthy enough so that I could be there to even maybe be in the stratosphere of these two gentlemen, the LeBron Jameses, Michael Jordans, Kobe Bryants of the world. And even though they weren't able to play 82 games back then, it was a different league back then. Their bodies were conditioned differently. Back then, there weren't as many travel teams, as much AAU play. College basketball's gotten more competitive. High school's basketball gotten more competitive. There's just more mileage coming on to these players coming into the league. So it's really a combination of a lot of things. But I think the biggest thing it boils down to is players want to win. Fans want players to win. They're willing to play less games and unfortunately make people not get their money's worth, because when they're paying to see these players, they're not knowing if the player's going to play or not, which is an unfortunate risk that you have to accept if you're going to NBA games these days. But it's really a big mess of a lot that's become – it's a bunch of little things that's become a big issue, and they haven't figured out how to solve it.
Well, I mean, it's like that little girl who wanted to see Steph Curry play his game in Atlanta, I think it was, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he was sitting out, and he ended up having to come back and give her all kinds of gifts and all this other sort of stuff. And I mean, it's just utter nonsense, because even back then, you played a lot of basketball to get to the NBA.
You did.
You know,
and it's not trying to take away from how players of the past, because it's always been competitive. But when you start getting high school games on NBA, they're doing there's just a lot going on, that there's a lot more pressure on the players younger to be all-time greatest from like 10 years old until they get just to get to the NBA. And then when you get to the NBA, then you're starting to play the best of the best. Like, you're not playing against mediocre ACC teams. You're playing against the best of the best ACC, Big 10, Big 12 schools like every night. So it's
bingo. And you're playing against these men who come from Europe and the Canadians who were in this league and all that other good sort of stuff. And they've had to travel and play and play and play. And I don't see too many of them who are the guys who are sitting out. No. I see a whole bunch of American players sitting out for these low management games. Those are the guys I see sitting out.
It's just a culture that's been built, and that is where it falls on those fans the most.
Yep.
Because we'll complain about it, and I'm not pointing a finger at anyone but myself on this. We'll complain about it all the time, but guess what? We'll sit there and watch the game still, because we'd rather watch NBA and complain about it than not watch NBA.
Well, there's one NBA team that I'm not watching this year, and that was the team that I've loved ever since I first started watching basketball in 1975. And that's because they got a coach that comes from Puke U. And you know, I can't stomach Puke U. I don't like them. I don't like anybody from there. I don't care. I don't like this coach being the head coach of the Lakers. So the Lakers are no longer my NBA team, folks. I'm an OKC Thunder fan. Right now, OKC Thunder. I'm wearing my Raptors hoodie because, yes, I do live up here in Canada, and I enjoyed their run, especially beating the Golden State Warriors and all those other fun teams that they beat. And every single series, Monty was saying, "Not going to happen, Greg. It's not going to happen." What happened to you, Monty? What happened? What happened? Again and again and again. But hey, that was fun. See, to the Puke U fakers, that's what they are now. Jeannie Buss totally disappointed me by hiring that clown. How are the Lakers actually doing? How are they doing?
Same as last season.
pretty so nothing's changed.
And I'll say this, even though I also UNC Tar Heels right until I die. So
that's right.
I hated JJ Redick when he was playing. But from a pure basketball standpoint, I love JJ Redick. I don't think he needed to get a head coaching job now. I think he should have been put on on a coaching staff, worked his way up through the ranks. But I mean, it's the Showtime Lakers. They're forever chasing the Showtime period, the Shaq and Kobe period. So they will make the big splash signings of coaches and players to keep themselves in the spotlight. As much as they know the importance of winning a championship, they also know the importance of being in the spotlight.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one spotlight that I'm avoiding completely, because again, I just don't like anybody that comes from Puke U. That's the bottom line. See, just like Eric said here, to the Puke U fakers, I don't care for them. I don't want to watch them. And that's my option.
Speaking of Puke U, one of the poster childs of this era in the NBA is Zion Williamson, which, load management aside, there are a lot of players getting injured as we can see this season. I mean, I don't think the Pelicans can fill the team. They've been so injured this season.
The injuries this year have been horrific ones.
Yeah.
Like Franz Wagner out for 6 weeks and guys being gone for 2 months and all this other nonsense this year. And it does not mean that I want to go back to the days of the Palace of the Malice, or as the head coach of the of that other team that I can't stomach in the NBA that have a guy from Puke U on them. They're called Boston. Those guys. No, I don't need to see the fights come back. I don't need to see that.
I think you have to find a line. I mean, for sure, you can make an argument that the league might be a little bit too soft. These are, for the most part, grown men. I mean, we also have a lot of kids coming to the league after 1 year, so that plays into a little bit. But at the same time, if you think you can tell me that you unleash the chains on LeBron James like they did in the 90s, let him play that physical in the 80s, that's going to be a problem for a lot of players. You're going to see a lot more injuries than see now. But they got to find a balance, because scoring is probably a little bit too high, but you also don't want to see Knicks versus Pacers from the 90s in the playoffs either, where it's like 92-87. Like, no one wants to see that either. And there's like 40 free throws. And they haven't been able to figure out what that balance is.
No. I mean, but again, here comes that 3-point shot again. Oh yeah, that's how you win basketball games. Really? Did you see the Bulls and the Hornets put up 75 misses between them? 75 3-point shots missed in a game.
I was curious about that, and I looked at that to see where did it actually start changing. So, and I really like this player as a person, but I have to call him out on one thing, and I think you know who I'm talking about. He plays for Golden State.
This is also another gentleman that Joe Cardozo, the owner of Team MBS Media, and myself do not like. I'm pretty certain that I know who you're talking about. Go ahead, tell me.
Steph Curry. You know what I'm talking about.
That's right. I
really like Steph Curry as a person. I think he is the greatest shooter of all time, far and away, no competition. Second is like the difference between Pikes Peak, which is at like 14,000 feet, and Mount Everest at 29,000 feet. Is that big of a difference? So Steph Curry won his first MVP 2014-2015 season. They were averaging, 22.4 3-point attempts that season.
Yep.
His next season, when he wins unanimous MVP, that jumps 2 per game almost, 24.1. After that season where it was like Steph Unleashed and he's shooting from everywhere, they go up almost a full 3-pointers per game at 27. And it's just been a steady rise since then, from 27 to 29, 29 to 32, 32 to 34. And then it's kind of leveled out at that 2019-2020 season, to where for sure that the highest they've ever been right now at 37.6. But that was between 2019 and 2023, where they stayed pretty much between 1 per game. I think what we're seeing, the frustration is just between last season and this season, it's 2.5 more 3-pointers per game than we were seeing just between those 2 years.
Yeah.
And as we always say, it's a copycat league. People really love to say that Steph changed the game more than LeBron, more than Kobe, a few other players that have been named. well, this is a result of what we're seeing from Steph changing the game. It's not like 3-pointers didn't exist. You always had 3-point specialists, Reggie Miller being one of the big ones back in the day, but now it's everyone shooting threes. And growing up, I love shoot. I love 3-point shooters because I couldn't dunk, and I love them more because I tried hard to dunk and I couldn't. I got really close and I couldn't. So I always respected 3-point shooters more. Like I really loved watching the react.
There was one guy back when I was first watching basketball, downtown Freddie Brown from the Seattle Supersonics. I mean that he was called downtown for a reason because he'd let it go like from anywhere. But that he was still playing before they brought in the 3-point shot, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I love 3-point shooters because I couldn't dunk. It frustrated me, so I'm like, well, I'm gonna focus on these 3-point shooters because I can get that better. And I still can do that well either. But when you look at that period between 2014, 15, 2019, 20, if you want to say Steph changed the game of basketball and he's been more influential, then you have to put that on him too, because that's when that all started. And I'm not trying to hate on him, but the facts are the facts. When that started, then you see, I mean, there's always been big men who can shoot the ball very well. Sabonis, Divac did it very well. And even if you go more modern, Chris Bosh can shoot the ball deep really well. But then when you have players like Wemby coming into the league, shooting the volume of threes that they do at their position, that's when I think it starts to get a little bit out of control.
Well, exactly. And I mean, when it was the Bulls and the Hornets. Now, these two teams combined this season are not very good. The Bulls are 15-19, and the Hornets are now 7-26. You know why you guys aren't very good? Because that's all you do is put up 3-point shots.
And you have to look at it pragmatically as well. It's not an issue of shooting 3-point shots, because going back to the Warriors of that time period, they shot a lot of threes, but they also made a lot of threes, and they made certain that their offense was predicated around making good 3-point shots. If you look back
there's such a good thing. There is a good 3-point shot, and there's horrible 3-point shots. And when these teams are running up the floor with a 3-on-1, and you got the two guys going off to the wing, whoa, what are you doing? No, you go to the basket.
I mean, yeah, because so not just picking on Steph. I mean, there's a lot of players who, starting at that time period, started to chuck up threes that they shouldn't shoot, but they were really good, so they shot them anyway and made them. You had Steph Curry, you had Damian Lillard, James Harden did it, Trae Young did it when he started coming to the league. It's fine for them. I mean, it frustrates you because you wish they would not depend on that so much, but they're skillful enough to do that. But because everyone sees,
or it's the other guy who rushes up to the line and takes that quick shot without looking at anybody else, and it's just like, whoa, no. You're a part of a team. You're not going to go down there and just fire up a 3 that quickly. You pass the ball to somebody else.
And that's where you're starting to get into the analytics piece of it, to where you sort of get, well, what is the percentage of making a wide open 3 versus a contested 2? Or what is it versus a wide open 3 versus a wide open 2?
I'm talking about the guy who runs up to the line and fires up a quick 3 like that. No, your feet aren't set properly most of the time. Thank you very much, because you rushed up to the line to take this shot. And no, you just don't do that. It's stupidity. It's absolute stupidity.
Yeah, so. Like we talk about it a lot in MBS chat, where it's hot take society, to where everyone always wants to be the first person to say something, no matter if it's right or wrong. And that kind of bleeds into the play of NBA, MLB, and NFL. People want to be the first to try something new, no matter if it's right or wrong, because that's the hot thing to do.
Yeah.
And even if you look at a team like the Nuggets. They play the 2-point game extremely well, but because they're not built to make 3-pointers the way that some teams can, if they can play a great game, all struggles aside, they can play a great game, not make too many threes. They could play a team that doesn't make as many shots as they do, but they get hot from three, and
Yeah.
they'll still beat them. And that's the problem that you face. Like, you don't want to be that team that is stuck in the past and can't make threes, but you don't want to be the team that completely loses their identity either.
No, exactly, right. And I mean, and as you're well aware, you and I have been the two guys at Team MBS Media who have always supported Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, most disrespected player in the league, but yeah, I can go on forever. I can go on forever
Right,
about that.
right. I mean, what that man is capable of doing on the floor, and it's from three. But it's definitely from the 2-point land where he's really, really good at it. I mean, that man just moves differently than everybody else. He just takes his time. He does what he wants. I love watching him. I love
And
watching him.
so that's a prime example as well, too, though. Like, if he solely focused on shooting 3-point shots, he would probably score more. He would have a high percentage, and he would do just fine. But that's not what he does best on the floor.
No,
What he does best on the floor is being a floor general. So
bingo.
it's like, could he probably shoot more threes? Yeah, it would probably be useful, but that detracts from what he does best. And teams aren't really paying attention to. There are players like, let's see, a Trae Young who shoots the ball really well, but at the heart of it, Trae's a playmaker. Whether that's for himself or for his team, he's a playmaker. And when his team struggles is when he's out there trying to play hero ball. When he's trying to make himself and his team better is when they play best.
Bingo. Right. And this is the knowledge that these players today just don't seem to have that knowledge. I mean, Allen Iverson was not a big man. Allen Iverson would go up against anybody in that league, though. Anybody. Where? Right in their faces at the basket.
Yeah. He's, like I say about Rey Mysterio in WWE, he's one of the biggest little men in NBA history.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like my all-time team, of course, is loaded with Lakers, as you know. It's Kareem, it's Magic, it's Kobe, and it's big game James Worthy, the real star of the UNC Tar Heels before Jordan was Jordan was there, but he wasn't that big of a factor in their 1982 title. And my fifth and my sixth man is Allen Iverson. I want Iverson. I don't care about Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, he was tough and all that other stuff. Give me Allen Iverson over anybody.
And little known secret, Iverson really didn't shoot the ball very well. I mean, when do you talk about, I mean, and that's taking nothing away from him because he stuck to what he did best, which was driving it down the middle of the lane and making people make him miss.
Yep.
But if he came in today's NBA and tried to do that, he would not probably be around very long because it's not just about making 3-pointers, but it's also about making high percentage shots. And he did not make a lot of high percentage shots. He made a lot of tough shots. So it would be interesting to see him in today's NBA because if you look at his raw stats and you take away the highlights and the nostalgia, you look at his raw stats, he was not that great when you look at it that way.
No. So he was not a guy who was going to be putting up a whole bunch of threes. I mean, he just wasn't. He wanted that contact, and guess what? The contact didn't mean that he was doing something personally against anybody. That's just the way that he played the game,
and he did it better than most.
That's all it was. You didn't see Iverson going out there saying, I'm the greatest at this or the best of that and all this other nonsense like we see these young players today talk about themselves. and that's one thing that I want to also discuss. Why is there no GOAT?
It's too subjective. It's just too subjective.
Exactly, because a person from my age, the greatest basketball player that we ever saw was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That was it. He was the best, and he had the league scoring title, and he won the he won the MVP award. How many times he won it? He won one when he was 38 years old in the NBA Finals. Kids, the MVP in the finals at 38. That's why Kareem is very vital to somebody like me. And then Magic and Larry. I mean, and again, this is where I also disagree with what the NBA did. Is they stopped talking about the teams, and all of a sudden it was just Magic and Bird, and then it became Michael Jordan versus everybody. Oh no! I don't get the whole idea of putting anybody at that level. Anybody.
I mean, it's not a if you can have a conversation between peers and take the emotion out of it, and it is a good conversation to have.
But I always use the best of their generation,
which makes more sense.
Right?
Because what makes it too subjective is that, I mean, the style of play in the NBA probably was generally about the same until you get to maybe right before the Michael Jordan era, to where a lot of the players, especially the most dominant ones, Kareem, Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, their style of game looked a lot alike. Well, the exception being Bird could make a lot more outside shots. But then you get to Michael Jordan era, to where you have a lot of dominant wings, and that's what Michael Jordan brought into the league, to where there's a lot more slashers, a lot more athletic guys, and then you get a little bit past that, you get to players like the introduction started with like Divac and Sabonis, to where you have bigs that could do it all. And then that expands to bigs like Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Wemby, who can do it all. It's just too drastic between the eras in the NBA to definitively say that one player is the greatest of all time. Now, you can say there's 10 players that are the greatest of all times, and you can make a good estimation of that between eras. Like, people who refuse to put LeBron in their top 5 are just stupid. Like, it doesn't make sense.
How dumb is this whole LeBron versus MJ argument? They are two totally different players, two totally different eras. Oh, and by the way, MJ, yes, you succeeded a lot because there was a bunch of expansion teams that came in when you came into this league as well. And we all know expansion basketball is not set up to succeed. So yeah, there you go. Okay, there's your easy victories, blah, blah, blah. But
expansion victories, and whether people want to admit it or not, there's people who can go way to the extreme to say Jordan just played against plumbers. That's not true. But the competition that Jordan played against versus the competition that these players all today have to face is probably not the same. There was a lot of great players in that era, absolutely, but when you look at
there was no team that was put together to actually challenge that group of Bulls in the Western Conference. There was no team that was put together well enough to face the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls had to provide the Eastern Conference, and then when they couldn't, well, the Houston Rockets were there. But again, the Houston Rockets, would they have fared well against those Bulls teams? I don't know.
Well, definitely not the Houston Rockets super team. And yeah, super teams existed back then.
Yeah.
They just got better when the Celtics decided to take guys still in their prime and make a super team versus old guys trying to make a super team. That was the only difference. But So you get entrenched into, no offense, old people saying that young players could never play in the old NBA, and then young
Right.
players saying old players can play in today's NBA. When the reality is, these are super athletes. They will adjust to whatever situation that they're in. Like a lot of people say, well, James Harden can never play in the old NBA because he flops too much. James Harden does what he does because it works. Like, that's why he does what he does. If it didn't work, he wouldn't do it.
Well,
And that's
exactly. And it was like when Nick Nurse decided to use the box and one against Steph Curry. He used a box and one. Well, the box and one wasn't around when MJ was playing the game. It was all straight man-to-man defense. That was it. And of course,
yeah.
you had the hand check as well.
Didn't have that old Dean Smith.
That's right. The four corners. But again, people don't even understand that that's where that came from. Is Coach Smith, who of course in our mind is an absolute legend. Unlike their puke use coach, that guy, he sucked.
He was good, but I still hate him.
Yeah, see? Because of course at that time the NCAA would let Krzyzewski go down Fifth Avenue and murder somebody and not punish the man. That's it.
That sounds familiar. That's a whole different show, though.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to, who is that other guy? Who is that other guy?
Okay. We won't bring him up here. That's enough of that.
So now we got this new All-Star format. So you got the rookies and the 2-year wonders being coached by Candace Parker, or it's Candace Parker's team. Then you have Kenny Smith, who of course is a Tar Heel, and Charles Barkley and Shaq having these other 3 teams. Now, Candace Parker gets stuck with the rookie and the 2-year-olds, and Shaq and Charles and Kenny, who should know a lot more about these young players than they do. I think Shaq needs to coach those young players and give Candace a real shot at an NBA squad. Now, I don't like the All-Star games to begin with.
I think Shaq and Chuck should coach the younger players, if not only for their whole segments on NBA TV, committed to them not knowing who these players are. Like one of the biggest memes about Shaq that there is him saying, "I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game." That's why Shaq should coach these younger players. But as far as them constantly changing the All-Star format, I have a better solution. Just get rid of the All-Star game. Who cares anymore? I mean, yeah, it was fun back in the day when it was competitive, but that level of competitive for...
Oh, I'm in complete agreement with you on getting rid of every All-Star game that there is. The NFL doesn't have a Pro Bowl anymore. I mean, it's just an exhibition of stunts and all that other BS. Major League Baseball is the one that really drives me nuts because, of course, I grew up in the era where you only saw the American League at the All-Star game, or the National League teams. If you're one of those evil Empire fans, you only saw them at the All-Star game.
And so the baseball's All-Star game is the only one that I think really works. It's because that's something that they have to play for, and that's home field advantage when it comes to the World Series. You can't do that in the NBA and the NFL, because if you tell players that essentially you're playing for yourself, then if you want your team, if you think your team's going to go to the NBA Finals, you want them to have home court advantage, you need to win this game. That's not going to fly. If you think there's injury problems now, you start doing that in the NBA and the NFL, saying that you have to win this game to potentially get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's a problem, especially in the NFL where the All-Star game is at the end of the season and everyone's already hurt to begin with.
Exactly.
And you can't duplicate that. So as much as, I mean, I think you can think like Eric's saying in the chat, you can keep you could probably keep the skills competitions like the dunk contest. You can keep the 3-point contest. As far as the actual game, why? There's no point of it. It really
And
doesn't make sense.
how many billions of dollars does the NBA bring in every year? How many
Enough.
billion?
Too many.
Yeah, enough, right? So these poor kids who are going to get slapped with fourth place here, they're going to be getting $25,000 each. If you finish in the third or the fourth place, you get $25,000 each. The second place team receives $50,000 each, and the big winners get $125,000 each at the All-Star game.
Not to mention, there is also an in-season tournament that goes along with that as well, which has a bigger payday. And whether people want to admit it or not, people want that $500K. So
Bingo.
it's just if you take away.
And I don't like this in-season tournament thing to begin with. I'm sorry, but that doesn't draw any interest to me.
If you take away the in-season tournament, maybe keep the All-Star game. Even then, I think still get rid of the All-Star game. But if you're going to keep the in-season tournament, which, despite its flaws, I actually really like, coming from a football fan where you have the Champions League and in-season tournaments and stuff like that, I like the idea of it.
I like the idea of it, but I just don't think they're doing it properly.
No, they're not.
No.
And for one,
it's not like fighting for the FA Cup.
Yeah, because when you look at football over in Europe, the seasons are half of what NBA seasons are. Most are at max 38 games.
38 games, and you have the Champions League games on top of that.
You have Champions things, but the reason
Europa League, if you're below them, you get the Europa.
But the reason you can do that is because the season is
you have the FA Cup.
Yeah, but the reason you can do that is because the season is short. And the season, even though the season is short, they stretch it out for months. To whereas one of the big issues with the NBA and this 82 game format is that it's 82 games over a fairly short period. And I'm sure there's reasons they do that. Like, I'm sure there's some backdoor deal between the other leagues and the states to where, well, you can play this much of our time, but not all of our time. So where we want this chunk
no. See, now, as you know, I'm a Cowboys fan. As you know, much to my chagrin, I've got 30 years of punishment for this. But Jerry Jones has declared he doesn't care what week of it falling. He wants Christmas Day football played, and you know the NFL is going to say yes, Jerry, that's it, because he's the marketing man, and you know the numbers for the NBA did rise for the Christmas Day games.
Yeah, but they don't want to share large majorities of their seasons together.
Exactly.
As to whether in Premier League and La Liga and Bundesliga, they don't care who they're playing against because they know that they're supreme. Like they don't have a little man's complex. They know people are going to watch, but that's not the same in American sports. So you don't have longer seasons because they try to truncate their seasons so that each individual league gets their fair share and gets as much money as possible.
Well, yeah, and to me, the NBA should not start their season when they do. They need to start their season in December and then carry on.
Yeah, I'm fine with having 82 games. I would be fine also if they reduced it to 72 games. I'd also be fine if they stretch.
I'd be fine if they go down to 60. I don't care how many games. I want these players out on the floor.
Yeah, and the way you do that is to either less games or stretch the season longer. Especially with the NBA, it's an indoor league, so I don't understand why they don't feel like they can play over longer months. But
when's the Olympics? They're played every summer.
Yeah.
Right. And now, okay, here's another beef that I've always had about the whole Dream Team thing. Soccer, as the Americans refer to it as in the Olympics, you have to be 24 or younger to play the men's game. The women,
with the exception to them being able to pick a couple, but yeah.
Right, but it's a 24 age limit.
Yeah.
If basketball is such a big sport, Why do you need LeBron and Steph and all these other guys to go and win you a gold medal?
Because they want to win. Because the guys that are,
because the year before, when they went to the World Championships, they sucked. They absolutely sucked.
yeah, and the guys that are 24 playing over in I don't know, Slovakia and Serbia, when they're 24, they've been playing professional basketball for like 12 years at that point. So the 24-year-olds in Europe are much better than the 24-year-olds in America.
Which is what I told everybody who was all PO'd the year that they drafted Luka Doncic. I said, have you seen this young man play the game? No. Well, guess what? You can watch those European leagues. They have them available. We have satellite TV, you know? And I said, when this kid was 15 and 16 years old, he was leading men. This is a huge star in the making. And no, he can't be any better than an American. And I just like, oh Lord, no.
Clippers had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah. You know, and now Luke is out for at least a month. There's another, right? Another injury.
Luka's out. Chet Holmgren's out.
Chet Holmgren's out. But
the Pelicans are out.
Everybody on the Pelicans is out. Why did New Orleans get another team? No, it just bothered me. Well,
I actually think that they're at least trying, with the exception of Zion Williamson, to build a good team.
Do you remember how Monty was going on and on and on about how Zion's going to dominate this whole league for years and years and years? And what did I keep telling him? Monty, he's a walking injury. He's a walking injury.
I wasn't so much concerned about his injury as about his weight. I mean, because he was able to keep his weight in check at Duke for the most part, because it's pretty much a dictatorship in college basketball. Like, their lives are pretty structured.
His wasn't. He finally got in shape before this season, apparently.
Yeah, but that's like coming from college basketball to NBA, to where they can suggest a lot of things, but they can't flat out make the players do things in NBA like they did in college. And when even his first year
oh yes they can. You asked Charles Barkley about being forced to lose your weight, and Charles had to lose that weight because guess what? Moses Malone said, "You're going to lose some weight, son."
Well, no one's going to say that to Zion. Who's going to tell him that? Brandon Ingram?
I would have.
Brandon Ingram's not going to tell him that. But I feel like they're trying. They just can't. It's just, like you said, they just, like Joe said in chat, they just need to get out of New Orleans. It's just a black eye. Outside of the Saints, what other successful franchise has ever been in New Orleans?
None.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see this nonsense from Joe? It's so glorious to see my beloved Chelsea back where we belong in the EPL. Chelsea, they're nowhere near the top of the league. That's Liverpool, Joe.
Chelsea's making baby steps. They're sitting right now, and they're in the Champions League. Which City isn't right now. They're two spots out of the Champions League right now.
There you go.
First time, going back to the article, self-plug, they haven't missed the Champions League or qualified. They haven't missed qualifying for the Champions League since the 2009-2010 season.
Yeah, 2010. Yeah,
that's how long it's been. Like, that's how long they've been that good.
And that's why I put up is the Manchester run ending. That's why I said that, because of course, based upon your article, which was on teammbsmedia.com, and
but hey,
I want to talk about the social media world that we live in.
It's like I said, hot take society. Doesn't matter if you're right. You just got to be the first to say it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Is what destroys a lot of narratives and conversations.
Exactly, because The WNBA, they've got this Commissioner's Cup that they play for. That's their championship title. Why isn't the WNBA smart enough? Oh, I understand why, because it's actually run by the NBA and they're cheap asses.
And a lot of players don't even want to play for it.
Exactly. But why haven't they come up with a proper name for their trophy instead of the Commissioner's Cup? Why isn't it the Cheryl Miller Award? It should be the Cheryl Miller Award, because if all these women want to go back in time and talk about a woman who impacted the sport, her name is Cheryl Miller. Yes, she was the older sister of that punk that went to UCLA, Reggie. But Cheryl Miller went to USC, another school that I'm not a big fan of because, of course, I went to I love Notre Dame in football. But I'm talking about Cheryl Miller's impact on the world of basketball. That woman was God's gift to the entire women's WNBA today.
Did you ever see the 30 for 30 winning time with Reggie Miller?
Yep.
It's just every time I hear Cheryl Miller, I just think of that, to where he's talking about how he's in the car after his great game. He scores like 25 or 30. Well, how much did you score? 105.
Yep. And Reggie, as great as he is as a shooter and all that jazz, Cheryl would whip him in one-on-one. She would whip him. Don't let Reggie Miller lie to anybody. Cheryl Miller used to whip Reggie at one-on-one.
He said as much in the documentary. I think that's why
he had to come out and say that, yes, my big sister was a damn good ball player.
I think that's why poor old John Stark suffered so much, because Reggie was just taking it out on him.
Pretty much. Well, no. I wrote Reggie a letter years ago. I know this guy Monty who thinks the New York Knicks are the greatest thing in the world. And no, it's just not going to happen. You know, and I don't know where Monty is tonight, but because Monty is the guy that got me started being on air and at Team MBS Media. But of course, he's not here. He's also a big supporter of yes, that place. Which probably means he knows that, you know, we're going to discuss that place. And but the WNBA, let's go to this whole Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, this whole debate, and Cheryl Swoops getting her language out there and everybody else getting their language out there. I don't care that Caitlin Clark is a white girl. I don't care that Angel Reese is a black woman. I could care less. I want to see basketball being played.
I think I said a few months ago, more so Caitlin Clark, but Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese came into an WNBA that was chock full of tension and controversy for years that's been building up. And then when you get a representation of what the issue is, the issue being that they don't try hard enough to market their black players. I mean, people don't like to hear it. That's what it is. Because there's been great players before Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark happens to be one of the greater of those great players, and they jumped on that. And I hate to be the person to say it, but they jumped on that because she's white.
Yep. Bingo.
That's what it is.
That's what it boils down to.
That's what it boils down to. It's no fault of her own. She didn't ask to be the poster child of the right-wing media and what their misrepresentation of what woke is. Caitlin Clark just wants to go out there and play basketball.
Bingo.
And where people jump on Angel Reese to where she still is a little bit at fault because she can be a little bit extra about it at times. But where people will get mad at her is that she recognizes that people are also watching basketball besides Caitlin Clark, because there's other good players besides Caitlin Clark. There's players better than Caitlin Clark, like the player who won that AVP, A'ja Wilson. Yeah,
she's the best player on the planet right now. There's
Um,
nobody better.
But what it boils down to is that they didn't want to market those players, right or wrong. They didn't want to market them because they knew they wouldn't reach the players. They wouldn't reach the audience that Caitlin Clark can reach. So even when Caitlin Clark comes out and says, "Yes, I think they need to do a better job marketing black players," then they jump on her, the person that they were fighting over for months because she comes out and speaks the truth.
Yeah. And that was just insanity to me. She comes out and Caitlin Clark does not want to talk about herself either. She wants to talk about what her team accomplishes.
Yeah,
And this
like
is,
if you
this is where I have my issue with Angel Reese. Yes, you're a beautiful woman. You're 6'3" and all that other jazz. I don't care what you wear. I don't care that you need a 6'7" boyfriend from the NBA. I don't care about that. Angel, I'm not paying my money to see you on the basketball court. I'm paying to see your team play basketball, not just you. When Angel Reese can stop putting herself front and center in a team sport, this is why I said, that why we're talking about the best individual in a team sport. It drives me bananas.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get around that because that's what people want. They want the loudmouth players. I mean, look at Anthony Edwards with Minnesota Timberwolves. Absolutely phenomenal player, but he cannot keep his mouth shut, and that makes him look stupid. And that's
if Anthony Edwards was supposed to be this next great big superstar, why is
he
his
wouldn't
team?
complain about getting double teamed.
Why is his team just one game above 500?
No, hey, all I'm saying is when LeBron was 23 years old, he wasn't complaining about being double teamed, and he was having his team be a serious contender at reaching the NBA Finals, and that's not what Anthony Edwards is doing.
No, exactly. And this is something that I'm going to talk about on my final word for the night is Mr. Edwards and a couple of other people out there. I get the idea that you want to have a podcast and all this other sort of stuff, right? But when you're in season, I don't want to hear you talking like this. I don't want to hear you talking like that on television.
So you're telling me you don't like Draymond Green's podcast?
No, I despise it. I just can't handle.
But back to Angel Reese, like that, unfortunately, is the culture that social media has set up.
Created. And you know what?
I think it's great that we have like access to these players that we didn't have before, to where in the past NBA players were kind of sheltered, going back to the arguably greatest player of all time, and Michael Jordan. If Michael Jordan did the things he did in his time in a social media era now, I don't care how tough people think his skin is, he would have been absolutely obliterated on social media. But it's a gift and a curse. We get to feel more connected to the players because of social media, but then because of social media, players are getting attention, and there's some players that really like that attention, and it just consumes them.
Oh, I've got one. I've got another one. But of course, he plays for the Cowboys. Yes. That 23 years old and is on a podcast saying, "I've already done everything there is to do in football."
Listen, you can say Dak Prescott and just say it.
No. It's Micah Parsons. Are you kidding me? When I saw that, yeah. I was ready to throw my laptop against the wall when he said that. No.
You know what I think it is? So the other day I was watching some old 30 for 30 documentaries, and I watched one 30 for 30 Broke, where it talks about how players pretty much 2 years within retiring, have no money left. I think a lot of players watched that and got scared. So they're doing all these things in season to make as much money as possible so that they don't go
Well,
broke after.
I've seen Jason Kelsey and brother Travis, who I don't think should be on. Jason Kelsey by himself and his wife are both fine podcasters. But guess what? His career is over. That's great. He played his career. He had a great career. He won a Super Bowl, all that jazz. He doesn't need his little brother on there with him. He doesn't need him. And again, you know, that's just the way we are with everything in this society these days. Everybody is there he is, personal brand arson. You got it. You got it right, Eric. You know, Dak Prescott, who does not do a podcast, do you know that Dak Prescott has made more sponsorship money than Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or any other player in the NFL? Do you see him out there? Do you see him out there?
Surprised. I mean, he's got all the commercials, so I'm not surprised. He had the Chunkies, he had the sleep number, and there's one person in that regard that didn't get talked about enough during his playing time. Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski made a lot of money simply from his NFL contract. And if rumors are true, he spent absolutely none of that money. He made his living off of endorsements. And even then, when's the last time you saw social media videos of Rob Gronkowski and his Lamborghinis or $500,000 chains? He made a lot of money in endorsements, and I don't think he even spent a lot of that money either. No,
because he shows up at Sam Elliott's place because he wants to be a USAA member. What the heck? No, you were never in the military, and neither was your parents or grandparents. You're not getting the USAA stuff, Rob.
Hey, but he tries. He tries.
Yes, and it's lovely.
I think there needs to be more players like that to where you're making a lot of money in the NFL. You don't need to. And that's going back to, if you haven't seen that documentary, that 30 for 30 Broke by ESPN, which was like, I think it's like 10, 15 years old now. I think it's even more, probably not as much applicable today because I think there's more players today like LeBron James than there were like Andre Rison, who were recklessly spending. Like LeBron James is worth $1 billion, not because he's spending his money. Like he is on some rich man stuff. Like he's making his money make money. But when you have players who come from nothing and then they signed a 5-year, $60 million contract coming out of college, and even now they can even start making money in college, there's no, at least that we're aware of, no really good program in professional sports, particularly the NBA, NFL, that teaches these, let's be honest, largely minority players who come from nothing, who've never had nothing, that teaches them how to manage going from having $20 in their bank account or having a negative bank account to getting paid $60,000 a week on their paycheck. And then not realizing that after those 18 weeks are over, they're not getting money coming in.
No, exactly, right? And I mean, my whole thought process about social media, I agree with what the country of Australia did. Nobody under the age of 16 gets access to social media. Done. Over. Gone. Like Summer McIntosh, who we've talked about, the Canadian swimmer, 17 years old. She has the world record for the short course and the long course in all those events now. She owns every record. You never see that girl on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. My kid's she's 11. She's like, when can I get? Because she doesn't. I don't think she wants Facebook. She wants to get on YouTube so she can comment on the videos and stuff. She's like, when can I get my YouTube channel or YouTube account? When I die, that's when you can get it.
Pretty much.
I mean, technically, she can get it when she's 13. We'll come up and discuss it then. But even then, I'm good with that. Because I know when I was doing online, when there was less internet, when I was 13 years old, I don't want her anywhere near that.
No. I mean, the people do. with all these kids who were born after the year 2000, who grew up with nothing but this internet era, there was a former president named Reagan who died. And when President Reagan died, the old message boards that we used to have, right? You remember the message boards?
Oh man, that was even before MySpace.
Okay, yeah, exactly, right?
Enough. When I say MySpace, there's probably
But
a lot of people who have no idea what I'm talking about.
but the filth, the filth that came out of these people's mouths about President Reagan was just disgusting. Now, I'm no Republican. I've never voted for the man. I did serve him because he was the president when I joined the Marine Corps. But again, the filth that came out of these people towards that man was just so disgusting. Like I was ready to throw away this internet thing right then and there. But it's only gotten worse. It's only gotten worse. Did you see the Marcus Freeman quote after the Sugar Bowl?
I saw something about it. I didn't see exactly what he said.
Okay, well he was asked about being one of the first two black national title coaches that could win the national championship.
Okay, yeah. So I know that at least people were either saying he got misquoted or something along.
Yeah, he was originally misquoted, right? Because his actual quote. I'm going to read the question out here. Marcus, can you kind of you and James Franklin are making history here. Can you kind of just put in perspective what it means for you to be one of two black coaches in this playoffs? And this is what I want Angel Reese to hear. Coach Freeman says, yeah, again, you're very grateful. It's a reminder that you are a representation for many others and many of our players that look the same way I do. Your color shouldn't matter. The evidence of your work should, but it takes everybody. And that's what I continue to remind myself. When people will try to point the finger at you, it's a great reminder of you're not in this position without everybody, without all of these guys. And that's what I told them in the locker room. I couldn't get off that stage fast enough because everybody couldn't be up there. It's about the team. It's about everybody that puts everything they have into making sure that we can achieve that success. And so it's a great honor. It's a privilege. But again, as the head coach of this place, I understand we're not in this position unless everybody in this program gets their job done.
Now, what was misquoted?
Because the rest of his language wasn't put in there. Just the first sentence was.
Well, yep, that's the internet.
Right? Exactly. And you tell me another man who spoke that way. Another man who spoke that way was who?
Got me.
Dr. King. Dr. King.
Yeah.
That's a quote that Dr. King could have absolutely been saying in the 1960s.
Well, sadly, that's the situation we're still in today.
Yeah, but it's all a bunch of BS as far as I'm concerned. Because like I said earlier, I don't care, Angel Reese, that you're 6'3" and you're a black woman. I want to watch you I want to watch you play basketball. I don't need you crying about how many fans come out and see you. If you're that great of a basketball player, that means that your teammates are also damn good basketball players, Angel. That's the important part of being in a team sport.
But at the same time, Angel, if you're listening at 5280 Keith, you can direct message me. Been single for a while, so just
but you're not 6'7" and you're not in the NBA, so you're done. You're done.
I'll make it happen. I've done worse.
But again,
yeah, it's all. So it really boils down to the biggest story of history, to where there's great things with technological advances, social advances, but there are gifts and a curse.
Yeah.
But like they say, you can use a medicine, or how's the saying go? I don't know if it's a saying, but it's a song that I really like. It says the difference between poison and medicine is in the dose.
That's
small
right.
enough dose, you have medicine. Big enough dose, you have poison. And it's
Yeah.
all about finding the balance in between.
Bingo, right? And this is what I want these younger athletes to understand. Understand that there's history before you. There were people that they were out there before you, and no, they didn't play against plumbers or the pipe fitters or whoever you want to claim that they played against. They were professional athletes in their day. Yes, your day is now. That's all great and dandy. But man, don't come telling me. Here's another one that came out today, and this was courtesy of Eric. Eric sent me a tweet a little earlier here.
Just a brief cut. Bengals did win, so they're still alive in the NFL playoffs.
Yes, they did. 1917. Here it is. The Fun Football Podcast. True or false? Patrick Mahomes is already a better quarterback than Joe Montana ever was. Oh, no.
Ever was? I don't know about ever was.
Yeah. See, because again, Joe Montana played for the 49ers, a team that I despise. I mean, I do not like the San Francisco 49ers almost as much as I don't like those Washington, clowns that they have up there.
Cover your ears, Joe.
Yeah. Well, I still call them the Deadskins, but anyhow. But Joe Montana played in a totally different era. Joe Montana got hit a whole lot more than Patrick Mahomes does. If Patrick Mahomes was taking those types of shots that Joe Montana took, okay, then we can compare you two. But again, you cannot make that type of a comparison because the league is completely different. Completely different.
See, and that's where you get into the issue of trying to argue between eras. On a skill by skill comparison, you can compare Patrick Mahomes to any quarterback who's ever existed. He's that skillful and that good at what he does his job. Now, are his numbers inflated because of the era that he plays in? Absolutely.
Bingo.
There's no denying that. That being said, he's not a small guy. So I also don't think that if he played back when Ronnie Lott was trying to clothesline people, that he wouldn't be able to hack it. He would still be able to hack it. It's just you can't go too far into the deep end on either side. Would he been able to play back then? Yeah. Are his numbers inflated because he plays now? Yes. If you try to meet in the middle, would he still be arguably one of the greatest NFL players of all time? Absolutely. I think no matter what era he plays in, he's going to win a lot of football games if he's put in the same situation that he is now with the Chiefs.
If you put the 1970s Raiders defense on that field against the Chiefs today, the Chiefs offensive line would be so beat up and off to the hospital that it wouldn't be funny, and Patrick Mahomes would not be around very long.
Well, they are now because they're terrible right now. But I guess the argument is if you put him, no matter what era it is, if you put him in a position to win, he's going to win. Like that is something that's not going to change over era. But you also have to recognize that his numbers are not going to be the same back then that they are now. But he also will be able to play as well back then as he does now.
Would he have suffered a further injury like he did in that one Super Bowl that they lost? That's always a concern because these guys don't take the shots to the head that Mr. Aikman and Montana and Joe Theismann and all those guys. They're not getting the same type of shots in the pocket.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they wish they could play now and not have to deal with that.
Well, you hear Tony Aikman say this all the time. He would love this. What are you talking about? This isn't tough.
But at the same time, I don't think you want to unleash Micah Parsons the way that they unleashed Lawrence Taylor. That would also not be good for a lot of players.
No, because Micah doesn't understand how to stop the run. Lawrence Taylor understood how to stop the run.
I'm talking about just pure physicality, like the physicality.
I still have Lawrence Taylor well above Micah.
I would have to see, because there is, even though players were tough back then, that is absolutely true. They were big back then, absolutely true. These players now are monsters. The Marker Pisons, the TJ Watts, the Nick Bosa's. Imagine putting Cam Chancellor back then and letting him just be a monster, even when he was already a monster when he played just 10 years ago. You have to find that line.
No, exactly. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Keith. What are you going to be doing for Team MBS Media?
So it's New Year. Starting to get back into my writing groove, I hope. But more importantly, we're about a month out, a little bit over a month from Rapid season. So they'll start their preseason soon. We got the MLS winter transfer window soon. Starting to pick up a lot with MLS, so a lot more of that coming from me coming up here soon.
There you are. Perfect. And you're not going to sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" for me?
No. Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
No? Oh, darn.
My name is Keith Richards, but I have neither his skill at guitar nor his money.
Jerry and the Pacemakers made a huge amount of money from "You'll Never Walk Alone." As you're well aware, when I wrote the Liverpool article about the Hillsborough disaster and all that fun sort of stuff last year, that song is right there. It hits you right in the heart, especially when the cop sings "You'll Never Walk Alone." That is just an amazing experience. And if you people understood this, you would understand my love for the Liverpool Reds. So tonight now, I'm going to give everybody here my final word. And I want to direct this to you, Anthony Edwards. Stop swearing. Real men don't need to use a foul language, especially when kids are watching you on television. If you want to be treated like an adult by somebody like me, stop the swearing. There is no reason for this. And yeah, you can whine about being double teamed in the NBA all you want, but you don't need to be out there swearing about it. It is completely disgusting. Do you want your daughters watching that on TV, Keith?
No, but mostly because I don't think he's as good basketball player as he thinks he is, but also because of that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's another episode. Like we talked about with the greats and all this other jazz. I'm sorry, there is no great basketball player. There's the best in their generation. Anthony Edwards, if you want to be considered the best of your generation, I suggest you go and see the guy in OKC named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who carries himself properly, who doesn't go out there swearing. And without Chet Holmgren, the Thunder are in first place in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, your Minnesota Timberwolves are one game above 500. I think you have more work to do on your basketball team than could come out on the TV and swear the way that you have been.
At least it's not as much public of a venue. I mean, I'm not going to tell anyone to not swear. You've seen the NBS chats. I curse like a sailor. But that's the NBS chats.
That's right. This is not on television.
You have to recognize your audience at some point.
Bingo. And that's what I just don't understand about these young kids who just think they can do whatever they want whenever they want and swear up a storm and all this other jazz. I'm sorry, Anthony Edwards. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, John Morant. John Morant has his own legal issues, as we've all known, but he's back and he's playing. He's playing well. Trae Young doesn't go out there swearing. I don't see anybody else going on TV swearing up a storm the way that you have. Just stop it, Anthony Edwards. And that is my final word for tonight. I want to thank Keith Richards. Next week, Eric is going to be on with me, and we're going to talk about, oh, Lord, it's horrible. We're going to talk about the 30 years of agony and suffering that we Dallas Cowboys fans have gone through. We're gonna talk about what's his name? Oh yeah, Jerry Jones and his idiot son Steven, and all the other Cowboys issues that we're gonna have to deal with this offseason. So all you haters out there, just come on in and pile it on. We'll be ready for you. But yeah, that's going to be next week on The Final Word. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and you all take care. Perfect.